Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 11 of Konosuba Season 3. As far as final episodes go, this was packed with great stuff. It had comedy, it had emotion, it had a tinge of fear, and it had a fantastic ending. There was so much that went on here, so let's get into it and talk about it. Let's start with the actual opening of the episode where we pick up where we left off last week, with everybody trying to rescue Darkness and get the hell out of Dodge. Well, everything went about as well as you could possibly imagine, which means that there was a whole bunch of comedic shenanigans that went down. This was definitely the central hub for comedy during this particular episode, and there was a lot that we could go through. First up, there was the aspect that essentially in the way that he went about saving her, Kazuma basically bought Darkness as a slave, and she was 100% into that. I mean, it was really funny seeing her reactions because he's saying all this stuff and her masochism is kicking in, and I swear to God she had an orgasm in the middle of the room in front of everybody, ending with her collapsing on the floor. But she's not the only one who had some orgasmic symbolism in what was going on. The other person that happened to was actually Megumin, but instead of it being over any kind of innuendo from Kazuma, instead it was about the fact that she was starting to cast and continued to hold an explosion spell, and the way that that was working and the way that that continued to stretch and build after what had happened with Darkness, just that's all my mind could think as I watched it was, oh god, they're doing this implication again. And given that these are the two who are normally shipped with Kazuma, I found that really funny. And also I thought it was super cool seeing Megumin come in and blast through the wall with Yunyun, and the two of them thinking that they were going to have to be the ones to come and rescue Darkness, which showed that they had the intent and desire and that they meant it when they said they were going to do that. But of course, Kazuma had already started on his plan and everything, and it was cool to see everything sort of come together, even if it did create a ton of chaos. Another really funny situation that happened during this part of the show was where the guy the other week who was propositioned by a noble actually referenced that situation as he basically gave the guards and the nobles like two middle fingers up and was like, I'm helping my friends, and implied the trauma of dealing with nobles from his perspective. I just couldn't stop laughing at that because that whole situation, when it happened the other week, was absolutely freaking hilarious. The last thing I think was really cool in this section was that there was a point where everybody was trying to deal with the guards versus the adventurers. Alderp was trying to give them money and everything, and then somebody just threw a skull as a soccer ball and everybody started playing soccer instead of actually dealing with the situation at hand, which shows you exactly what the adventurers of this town actually think about Alderp and other nobles who would try to swoop in and cause trouble within their actual living space. And I found that extremely satisfying. From there we shift to a much more somber and much more serious situation, which fortunately ended up having a very comical and happy ending. And in that I'm speaking about the situation with Darkness's father, Lord Dustiness. And I was so glad with how they resolved this, because I was sitting there and I've been thinking for a while, how are they going to deal with this and have this old man pass away and everything? I mean, he doesn't even look that old. His hair still has color, but I mean, this is a medieval fantasy setting, so the rules aren't quite the same as they are for us. How are they going to deal with this while maintaining the tone of the show? Which, this show isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but the death of a major character's parent within the context of the world seemed kind of like it would be pretty sobering, given the fact that one of the things we know about in this world is the ability for resurrection. I realize that can only be done if death happens in a combat situation. People die naturally and that's a different thing, but still, tonally I was concerned. Fortunately, I need not have been, because this was actually one of those rare and special moments where it was Aqua to the rescue. And it's so nice to be able to say that, because so often when we talk about Aqua, we're making fun of her. And her situation here was actually rather funny. But Aqua saved this man. Aqua comes into the room. Aqua just immediately starts casting a spell, and you're like, what the heck happened? And then Aqua explains after the fact that the gentleman was actually under some kind of curse, and she takes the curse away, and it's implied that he's going to now be able to get better. But of course, the situation with the curse and the fact that he gets healed, while I like both of those, they don't even begin to be the icing on the cake, because then we find out what's been going on and how this curse came to be. And finding that out and the consequences of it, despite the fact that this is Konosuba, despite the fact that this is a comedy, was probably my favorite part of the entire episode, because that fat bastard, Lord Alderp, finally got exactly what is coming to him. And I am so glad, because normally I'm pretty chill on characters. Normally I'm the one trying to defend the villain, but this guy, as I've been telling you guys all season, this guy just does not work for me, and I find him gross and creepy and disgusting, and oh boy, did he pay for the things he had done. So apparently he had this deal with this demon named Maxwell. We saw this earlier in the season, that there was something going on, and that he was abusing this demon, which I actually felt sorry for the guy, because we see him doing it again here at the start of the sequence, and I'm thinking, oh man, hey, leave this guy alone. What the hell's wrong with you, dude? But oh boy, he is not as helpless as he led me to believe. Ooh, no. It turns out that this demon's name is Maxwell, and that he has what I will kindly refer to as a despair fetish. Well, Alderp is bullying him again, is trying to get him to bring the curse back again, or to do a different curse, and he's telling him he can't do it because Aqua's magic is interfering with his magic. And then a knock sounds at the door. Alderp goes to the door, and yeah, he thinks he sees darkness, and he invites her inside and everything, and he's grabbing her and he's like, "You're mine." And then the disguise melts away, and it's Vanir, and I almost died laughing. And then we realize that just before he ran to the door to grab darkness, or what he thought was darkness, Alderp said that the contract would be broken if Maxwell brought him darkness, and darkness arrived, which fulfilled the needs of the contract. And then we find out just what the price is going to be, and poor old Alderp is just sweating profusely, freaking out to the point where he rips off his toupee. Hey, who saw that one coming? And basically having a very, very, very bad day. Now, they were smart enough, of course, to not let this linger too long, and to make sure that once it was clear that the jerk was going to be paying for what he did, not because anyone specifically cares about that action, but because he made a deal with a demon. We cut to black and we get the hell out of there, because I tell you this, most people think death is the worst thing that can happen to a person. Oh no. The worst thing that can happen to a person is to remain alive and to be under the thumb of some form of despair. And given that this guy has lost the girl, lost his lands, lost his reputation, and is now lost to a demon, oh yeah, he's got some despair to spare. So that is not going to be good for him, and as much as I'm glad he's getting his just desserts, I don't need to stick around and see him. Lastly, we have the wonderful scene where basically darkness is coming home. And it was really beautiful how they did the situation with Darkness and with the other major characters, and how Darkness was very uncertain about actually coming back, and Darkness had her doubts about whether they needed her and all of that sort of thing. So that was really interesting, and I love how the girls both immediately rush forward to greet her, to comfort her, to tell her everything's okay, which actually beautifully ties back to what happened in the first episode when we met that plant that disguised itself as a girl, and it was the three ladies of our party who come forward right away to comfort her, and it was Kazuma hanging back. Except in this situation, it wasn't so much that Kazuma was hanging back. Kazuma started to try and encourage Darkness and want her to come in and all that sort of thing. And then the girls actually came forward and sort of beat him to the punch. But of course, the funniest aspect of the entire situation isn't whether or not he was beat to the punch. It was that he got the punch line, because as they were talking about the ramifications of the wedding, how weddings work in this world and all that sort of thing, what he ended up getting to say is that she can now be known as Divorcedness. And oh boy, did I laugh, because that was legitimately funny. And I think that it was an overall solid way to wrap the show up. It left it on a goofy and humorous note that really tied into what had happened, and that reminds us of the core focus of the show, which is the central comedy. And it ensures that as the story progresses from here, and I certainly hope we will get a season 4, that we know all of our major characters are again reconnected. There's a possibility or high probability that Kazuma is getting a bunch of money back. Nobody has to leave town, nobody is in danger, and for the time being, all of the characters that are major to Konosuba are at peace. I just felt that it was a fantastic ending for the show, and that it really worked out well, and I really enjoyed it. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys thought, so feel free to comment below and let me know. And I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye!